What is going on, guys? Welcome back. In today's video, we're going to attempt to implement a Python game, namely Tic-Tac-Toe, using ChatGPT. So let us get right into it. Alright, so we're going to implement a Tic-Tac-Toe game in Python today using ChatGPT, and the basic rule here is that I am allowed to change certain things about the code. I am allowed to fix some minor bugs, but the vast majority of the code should be written by ChatGPT. I'm only allowed to correct some minor mistakes. So we're going to see how this goes. It's unprepared, it's unscripted. We're going to I expect ChatGPT to perform quite well. However, I don't expect it to deliver the perfect game right away. I think it will not be able to implement Tic-Tac-Toe fully, even in the command line, without me giving some extra hints. And we're going to start with a very basic prompt. Now, when you prompt ChatGPT to implement something, you want to give as much detail as possible, but you also don't want to confuse it with some contradicting or too complex information. So we're going to give it all the information it needs. We're going to say, I want to have a tic-tac-toe game in Python. There should be a 3x3 grid represented as a multi-dimensional Python list. Then the two players X and O should take turns and change and put their, what would you say, their value, their symbol in a free grid. If the game is over, the script should display whether it was a tie or who won. So let's just send this now and see what happens. Here's a sample implementation in Python. Starts with the code directly. It generates a board using a list comprehension, then it prints the board, then it checks for a win. This is going to be the main game logic, so it's going to check for the winning conditions, and I think this should be quite simple here. So here it checks for the column, here it checks for the diagonals, I think, and for the row. If row equals character, character, character. Okay, I'm not sure if that works, to be honest, but we're going to see. So the first thing we're going to do before we analyze the code too much is we're going to run this, and we're going to see if this works right out of the box. And if it works, it's fine. We're going to also try to put this then in a graphical user interface. So we're going to first ask for a command line application, or I think we didn't specify command line application, but it delivers a command line application. But we want to also then convert this into a tkinter graphical user interface game. So I'm going to copy the code now. We're going to go into PyCharm, and I'm going to check if this works. So let's run this. X turn, enter row. So let's say I want to have the first row, enter column, second column. Okay, this actually worked. Now, second means third, and one, or first means second, because we start counting at 0. Let's see, O turn, let's say 0, 0, okay. Then let's do 1, 1. Let's do, what's the row? The row is the first one, right? So let's do last row, first column. And now let's finish the game with 0 and with, no, actually with 1 and with 0. X wins. Okay, so that looks quite promising here. Let's just see if it detects different patterns. So we're going to, I don't want to test this too much here, but let's see if it also handles the diagonals. I mean, it should, right? So if board 0, 0, 1, 1, 2, 2, yeah, that should work. So let's go with 0, 0, then 0, 1. Oh, actually, this is now 1, right? So now we have 1, 0, there you go. 1, 1. Then 1, 2, and then 2, 2 is diagonal. Okay, works. Now let's just see if we can also handle a tie, because I think that's probably the only thing. What does it say? Okay, if no cell is basically, yeah, it basically checks if all cells are filled and if there is no win. So I think that is actually a solid implementation of Tic-Tac-Toe without any problems. Now, I did this already in a test run, and it didn't work as flawlessly. And the thing about ChatGPT is that it doesn't doesn't deliver consistent results. So if you run the same query at home, you're going to, or on your own computer, you're going to get probably different code. And maybe it will work, maybe not. But the first time I tested this to prepare for this video, I just tried to see if it is able to implement a basic tic-tac-toe game. It was not able to do it right out of the box. And now it seems like it actually did that. So I'm going to now just fill all the fields. Then let's go with 1 0 1 1 1 2. Now we need to be careful. Now we have X, so we should not go with, we should go with second and 1. There you go. Now I want to go with last one and 0. But now I win. That's the problem. Okay, I'm incompetent. I cannot not win. But it seems like this actually works. So let's try now to get this into a Tk-Inter graphical user interface, and I think this will not be as simple. Now, I might be mistaken again, and I might be surprised, positively surprised, but I think it will not be able to easily take this and turn this into a Tk-Inter application. But let's try. I'm happy to be convinced otherwise. So let's go ahead and say great to give some positive feedback here, some reinforcement, and let's say now please take the game code from above and turn it into a Tk-Inter application where we have a grid of buttons, 3 by 3, and each button represents a cell. By clicking on a button, the current player can put their symbol there. Let's see if that's enough. So it now says, here's a simple implementation using Tk-Inter in Python. Basically, it's going to have the same logic, but I think the only thing that's going to be different is he has to basically change print board to doing it with buttons, to something that when you click a button, you change the actual value of the button. The check win and check tie is actually the same logic. And the input is obviously also different because we need to now add the command to the button. Let's see if this is going to work. Def button click. Now the problem is, look, we still have print board here, so this is already probably not what we want to see here. So I'm not sure if this is not, if it's not already confused. Also, I think that it uses window destroy. Is window even defined? Ah, okay, it defines it down here. Now I'm open to be convinced otherwise, but it prints something here. So maybe it works, but this function here is not really useful because we don't want to print the board anymore. But let's see, I'm going to copy this now and I'm going to replace this. Let's run this. Okay, first of all, button is not defined. Okay, why is button not defined and where is button not defined? It says that in line 48, btn is not defined. What is this? Okay, it passes itself. That's a problem, obviously. But also, what is that button keyword here? So this is complete nonsense here. This doesn't work. The question is now, what's the most reasonable way to convince ChatGPT or to get ChatGPT to understand that it does something here that doesn't make sense? Now, I personally have not made too much great experience, or I have not had too much great experience with ChatGPT when you tell it that it made a bunch of different mistakes. We can still try, and otherwise I think we would have to change certain sections ourselves, or we should have, or what we could do is we could ask for the graphical user interface version right out of the box, so not take the code from here and then convert it to a graphical user interface, but request a graphical user interface right in the beginning. But let's just try to see what mistakes can we spot here. So first of all, one mistake is that it passes itself and it is not defined before that. Also, this function here is kind of useless. So let's just go ahead and let's just note these 2 points here. There are 2 mistakes in your code. First of all, the function, what is it called? Print board is useless because we display the current state of the game using the button values or text values. Second, the button you define has itself as a keyword argument, which does not work. Now, to be honest, I don't think that it is going to be able to fix those mistakes, but let's give it a chance, and maybe we can fix 1 or 2 lines and get this to work. This would actually already be kind of impressive, I think. Now, I don't know what exactly this character... Oh, okay, I understand now what the character thing is. Character is just the argument here. Okay, I was thinking about the data type. I thought this is like just a character data type here. But I think in Python we don't have a character data type. So let's see now. First of all, it removed the function. That's kind of good already. Let's see now if we can fix the issue with the buttons down there. The problem is, what is it trying to do? I didn't look at the code enough, but it's trying to pass here. First of all, it calls a function, and that, okay, but this looks like a lambda expression, but it doesn't make a lot of sense to say btn colon. I don't know that syntax in Python. I don't know if that actually exists. Also, I don't know what btn as a keyword is. I think maybe it's trying to do something like command. And here also we have, I think, a... Oh, okay, sorry, my mistake. What we're doing here is we're passing a lambda function where we have the row, the column, and the button as a parameter, and then we have... and then we call the function on these parameters. But okay, the only problem is actually that we're passing the button itself. So now it's still making that mistake though, isn't it? Because now we still have the problem that the button is creating a button. So we're creating a button here and we're passing that button as a parameter. So I think this should not work. But let's see, maybe I'm overlooking something. Maybe this actually works. Let's see. Oh, we actually have now a grid. What happens when I click on a button? Okay, it enters a value somewhere else. That's great. Okay, it's always changing the same. It's always changing the same box. Let's see if we can just say that. When I click any of the buttons, it always changes the button or the text of the same button. But let's maybe try to figure out what's happening here, because we already have a solid code base. So maybe we can change just 1 or 2 lines and this is going to then work. Check win should actually work. Check tie should also work. So the logic is here. What do we have here? We have the board, which is this list essentially. And what we're doing is we're saying row column button. If the column is empty, then, but what is actually I and J? Okay, we're creating a button here. We're creating a button and we pass to this button call. Okay, I understand. But does this actually make sense? Because we have button config text equals turn, which means basically X or O. But it's always passing the same values, it seems. So let's see if we already fixed that here. What did it say? Because the lambda function captures the reference to button, not its current value. To fix this, we need to use a default dict. Okay. Let's just see if it works. If not, we're going to try to solve it ourselves. Let's run this. And oh, now it actually works. Okay, I didn't even look into the solution, but that looks promising. So let's see if the logic works. So now we should be able to get to a tie, hopefully. Okay, So it has no attribute message box. This is something that needs to be fixed, but it seems like at least the graphical user interface works. Probably it's also not going to then be able to print it we want, okay? But that seems to be an issue with the message box. So let's just say, as a last remark here, there is no TK message box. You can use TK-inter message box instead. I mean, I think that's the same thing, right? I mean, because we are importing TK-inter as tk.messagebox.showInfo, but it says that this does not exist. So let's see what we get here, if it's going to actually change something. But other than that, I think that the code already works, because it seems to recognize that something happens when there is a winning condition or a tie condition. It just is not able to print or to display the message box. So tk message box show info, it's actually the same code, isn't it? So do we have something like message box here? tk dot message box. Now, I know I could Google, but I want to pretend now that I don't need Google, because ChatGPT is always set to replace Google. So I don't want to use Google. I want to use ChatGPT to figure out how to solve this. I also don't know off the top of my head what the actual function is called like. So basically, I think it didn't change anything, right? So I said TK message box does not exist, and he tells me to use TK inter message box, which is the same since TK is the alias. But let's say, no, you don't understand. This function does not exist. But maybe we can run this and actually copy the error message. So maybe it then knows what to do. Attribute. Let's just copy this here. I get the following error. And then let's see if that works. Apologies, it seems that the message box function is not available. Here's an updated code that uses a simple tk-inter label widget. I think you could also use a message box, but for some reason it doesn't understand it. But maybe we can open up while this is, or actually we cannot do it while it's generating the output, but we can also start a new chat without this context that we already have and just ask it how to display a simple message box in tk-inter, and I'm pretty sure it's going to get it right. So I don't think that we need to use this label approach here. We can probably, but I think it's more reasonable to just open up a new chat and ask how to display a simple message box prompt using tk-inter in Python. So we're going to wait for it to finish here, because you cannot ask two questions at the same time. And I also want to have the solution of this one here in case I need it. Let's just see. Maybe this is actually a good solution, but I would prefer to have a message box if that's possible. So let's just let this finish. And now let's open up a new chat. How can I display a simple message box using tk-inter in Python? Here's a sample code to display a message box. So it says tk-inter.messageBox. So I need to actually import this, and I think it doesn't do that here, right? So I think in the code here, does it do that? No, it just imports tk, and it doesn't recognize that it has to import tk-inter.messagebox. I don't know if that's actually the solution, but maybe that is the solution. So let's go ahead and say import tk-inter.messagebox, because I think that should actually solve the problem that we have here. Stop and rerun. There you go. X wins. Okay, so this works. It didn't recognize that. Yeah, minor mistake, but it actually was able to generate quite a solid tic-tac-toe game. Now, of course, we can go with some styling here as well. So we can go to the context of the game that we already have and say, what would I need to change to increase the size of the buttons as well as the font size? Right now, it's all very small. And we pass the desired font and width height options to the button. And I think it's going to now rewrite all of the code. This is one thing that I don't get ChatGPT to do quite often, to only rewrite sections, because I don't need to have all of this here again. The only thing I need is I need to have the specific lines where I define the buttons, which is probably down here, right, with a button constructor here, and I would have to pass like a couple of keywords, but now it's going to rewrite all of the code without it having to do that actually. But I'm actually quite impressed. It managed to do it quite flawlessly. It had some minor mistakes, but we could fix them even though we didn't know what was happening, because I genuinely didn't know that we have to import tk.messagebox. I mean, kind of obvious, but still, I didn't figure that out on my own. I would have to Google, and ChatGPT figured it out in a separate chat, but it still helped me solve the problem. So let's see now what we do here. We just increase the font size to 20. We pass width and height. So actually, I think the only thing that we need to do is we need to copy this line and replace this one here. So I'm going to comment out this one, and the rest should be the same. There you go. We now have this larger game. There you go. X wins. Let's see if it also works the other way around. O wins. Perfect. And a tie should also be possible. Tie. There you go. Alright, so that's how you build a simple tic-tac-toe game in Python using just ChatGPT. Alright, so that's it for today's video. I hope you enjoyed it and hope you learned something. If so, let me know by hitting the like button and leaving a comment in the comment section down below. And of course, don't forget to subscribe to this channel and hit the notification bell to not miss a single future video for free. Other than that, thank you very much for watching, see you in the next video, and bye.